one clause that was used to cure less.
Still gotta get that clock fixed. Synchronized.
Taking 3 minutes off.
You're off.
Smart.
Your computer never lies, unless you're on Facebook.
Social.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, just, it's not that you're best you.
I'm sick for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so just work good.
Yeah.
And the recording.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. Like to get started if we could, I'd like to call this meeting of the joint meeting of the North Public Utilities Board of Commissioners and Sewer Authority to order on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. As usual, all those joining us by phone or by WebEx, I would ask you to mute your device when you're not speaking, and when you do speak, please state your name for clarity of the record. All right, moving on to agenda item 2, which is the 15-minute public comment period. Are there any members of the public here this evening that would like to speak?
Like all staff online.
Anybody here? All right. If anyone from the public would like to speak at a later time, we can reopen agenda item 2. Moving on to agenda item 3, approval of the minutes that were provided to you, I believe, today. If everyone's had a chance to read them, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, William.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Robert. Is there any discussion about the minutes for the September 26, 2023 meeting? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. Moving on to agenda item 4, which are the information updates, which were provided to you in your board package. Start off with the leadership team template. Are there any questions or comments on the leadership team template? I had one for Eric. Is it Eric?
Eric is online. Eric, is he here?
It's always Eric. Not me again. It's- So it said that the Greenville dam was, the maintenance was canceled due to high water. This is the one that we did a lot of work on last year. Is that correct?
He tried on you.
It is. Unfortunately, because of all the rain we got over the summer, we were not able to get onto it this year, but we did do an awful lot of maintenance to it last year because we actually had an extended low water period that we took the opportunity to do more maintenance than we normally do.
So not being in a drought actually hurts dam maintenance.
Yeah.
And typically you get the rain in the spring, dries for the summer, we do all the maintenance. Didn't work this year.
So we're not expecting any dangerous situation to arrive by not doing any maintenance on it.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Very good.
No, we're not.
We have an outside engineer that works with us on that, so they assess it on an annual basis.
But when there's this much water, you really can't see the dam either, so that becomes a problem.
I was gonna ask you about
It's
that.
hard, you can't do a good inspection.
Kind of look through, well, we'll see how it goes next year.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I think that's all I had.
No, well, I'm Chris or Larry, I don't know, so I saw the city of London has selected a contractor to do their lead removal. Is that,
Yeah, the same company Reed.
okay, good.
No, they would we get the same engineering firm, Arcadis. So Larry, tell us where we are with construction and selecting that first set to work.
100% plans are on the DPH review right now, but we're still trying to verify homes. Like I said, a lot of our records were not accurate at times. Stuff we said was copper, we're finding was lead, and vice versa. So DPH is requiring some visual before we do the construction. They're trying to get at least 160 homes. So we've been in almost 330 right now. So the lead line number is actually dropping, which is not a terrible story, but we will have some construction in the early spring for sure.
Yeah, you might want to check out, how it's going on in London.
But when it comes to the contractor,
Yeah.
it's lowest qualified bidder. So we don't have a choice for that. So, well, we won't have to take a non-qualified bidder, but when we have a qualified bidder, it's not like we use what London uses.
Yeah, right, just to see how, how.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see some of the issues and problems they have, and we will reach out.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill. All right, are there any other questions or comments on the leadership team templates? All right, next is the interdepartmental loan resolution for the sewer department with a promissory note. Chris, was there gonna be any kind of discussion on this one?
Yeah,
This should probably be down
wait, we're on four.
right before, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that we'll have that after the sewer plant, update.
All right, so. All right,
Hello,
hello.
I did have a question on the next couple of pages here, financial statement summary for the year.
Okay,
I think you skipped over it, but
so hang on,
maybe I didn't understand.
so hang on.
Yeah.
I didn't, hang on. I wasn't finished with this. I wasn't finished with the information updates.
Okay,
I would just make a comment that the interdepartmental loan resolution, I think is gonna be a discussion. That's gonna move further down on the agenda.
Yes,
Right, do you want to officially move that, or we can just do that informally?
we do have that as an action item and, part of the sewer plant update, so we can table that, as part of the. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
no,
There's an.
no, it was provided, information and updates provided to the board, so that was provided to the board.
Okay,
So I think that's fine the way it's here,
yeah, I got it, but that will be a presentation.
as part of the sewer plant update.
All right, so down below, got it, okay,
Yes.
very well.
And then we'll go into action items to, go forward.
So we will discuss that at that time as it's presented. And lastly, the financial update, Michael, you had a couple of questions on the.
oh, yes, please. I'm sure either Laura or Chris or Hope will probably know this because they're kind of unusual items. So you look at the year-to-date comparative income statement, department summary, in other words, everything. Looks really good. The operating income we went from a projected deficit of 603,700 to a surplus, an actual surplus of 1,917,996. That's great. But then, by the time we got down to the net income, the budgeted net income was much better than the actual because the non-operating income had some unusual fluctuations. The two main ones were the interest expense that was expected versus the actual interest expense. And then the other one was contributed capital, which I'm not sure where contributed capital was supposed to come from, but
That's from our loans. Yeah, so,
So the contributed capital number, that's the sewer plant. We had anticipated when we put this budget together 18 months ago, that we'd be further along in the sewer plant process. So that's the dollars that we haven't received from the sewer plant. So it's a timing issue, not an error or a problem.
I understand that. I just don't understand the classification.
What do you mean?
so contributed capital is, the money we receive from, EWS or F1.
The grant funds.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, I thought you said it was a loan from.
So, but this portion of what's recorded here would be the grant.
So
portion.
because it's a grant, it's
It's
contributing, yeah.
contributed.
So we will be getting it.
We
Just
will
haven't
get
got
it,
it
just
yet.
not.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. I'm glad to hear that. The interest expense was like 3 times what we anticipated in the budget. That's kind of unusual, but is that because we started borrowing money sooner than later?
That's the timing of the interest expense related to the pension obligation bonds.
Oh, that's the pension obligation bond interest?
Because we do a one-time payment at the beginning of the fiscal year for that. But I believe that that's the timing issue.
So we're prepaying the interest for the whole year.
We pay it early in the year in order to,
Whereas the 609 in the budget is really only estimated for that period of time. Okay. That's kind of odd to do it that way.
I don't know if that's a shot.
so we, when we go through the budget process this year, we'll make sure that we have that timing reflected accurately. I know that last year, as we were putting.
If I might make a suggestion. I mean, I think what we're in fact doing is prepaying paying interest for 9 months.
So we pay everything early at the beginning of the year. That's a process that we worked out with the city and the financial advisor in order to effectively take advantage of that process of that payment and pay less over time.
I understand that. That's not my point. My point is that if we're prepaying for the whole year, the interest, it shouldn't all be expensed in the quarter.
We make a single one-time payment. It's not for the whole year. It is due in July.
It's due in July for what period of time?
The entire year, but it's due in July.
So it's prepaid on an accrual basis.
It's not a prepaid expense though, because it's due in July. The whole entire payment is due at that time.
But we're paying for the interest for the whole year. I don't care when it's due. The fact is, we're paying for the interest for the whole. That's my opinion. I won't argue with you. If you want to do it your way, you can do it your way.
So you're saying that it should be accrual and not cash?
I'm saying that, in my opinion, based on what I know, and I could be wrong, is that like basically 1/4 of the 8.8 million is the interest for this 3-month period. This is 12 months worth of interest, but it's only a 3-month period. So that I would classify the, the monies that represent the future interest as a prepaid. That's what I'm saying. I think that's correct accounting, but that's my opinion.
Or can you look at that and get back to Mike?
I'll review that with Josh.
Okay, great.
Then you wouldn't have this wild fluctuation in your financial statement. So shouldn't be there. Not for that. In my opinion. Thank you.
All right, Michael, were there any other questions on the financial update? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5, the information and updates. We have several. So Chris, I believe the first one would be Chris Riley, I believe.
That's correct.
The communication plan and bill schedule for the new rates.
So as we've discussed in the past, we're doing an awful lot of outreach to make sure that people are aware, not just of the changes to the bills, but the opportunities that exist with the community assistance rate. So we left a packet with each of you. The first is what the back of our bill for November will be. And it's the blue section. We redid the bills a couple of years ago. We have much more real estate that we can use on a monthly basis to share information with customers. It's been very effective. We can put community stuff out there as well. But for this month, we're letting people know about the changes to all the rates and then a summary of what the community assistance rate looks like. The next page are the billboards that we have reserved on the behind the old YMCA. There are 2 versions of a billboard ad that will run over the next 6 to 8 weeks. One that highlights that highlight the community assistance rate to make sure people are aware of it. It directs them to the website where there's more information that'll be prominent on the front page for the next couple of months. And then there are examples of 4 different social media posts that Simone put together for us that look terrific, that explain both that we've got new rates and that we've got assistance available for customers. They've been effective in getting this out. We're doing them a couple of times a week. We'll do them through November and December. And I think that that's an effective way to reach out to customers. We'll have our new newsletters that will come out the end of December for the January bills. We'll do the same type of information. The PR 101 is clear, concise, and consistent communications to make sure that we're getting the same messages out there, the same numbers that are out there, the same contact information for customers to learn more about the community assistance rate. And I think Ruth, in a subsequent presentation, is going to show that her team has been very helpful in getting this word out to people as they come in. I've also included in the packet a copy of an article that the Day did about the discounted low-income rate, and then the op-ed that we had in the Day last week about the community assistance rate. In addition to all this, Jeff sent out an email to key customers with the projected impact or what the projected impacts might be, and letting customers know, commercial customers, if they wanted a calculation to be done specifically for them, he and his team would be able to put that together. And I don't know that there's anybody that's requested, maybe 1 or 2, but nothing out of the ordinary. So we're getting all this good news out there, and it'll be certainly part of what Stu is looking at now, the next iteration of our community impact report, which we'll do in a couple of, at least a year. But we're reaching out consistently, I think, with the same information, and we haven't had any complaints yet, other than one person on Facebook saying that the decreases aren't as much as the increases in social security. Someone was disappointed that we're not doing more by decreasing their bill 17% a month. So you can't please all the people all the time. So, yes.
So the assistance program, that's spread across our commercial and residential?
Just the community assistance rate is strictly for low-income residential customers.
Right, but essentially it's being paid for by all,
Everybody,
everybody,
right?
commercial.
It's about $1 million in foregone revenue.
Do we know, so I was asked, how much will the residential, person pay? Was that, has that been calculated, do you know?
So we leave for a typical customer size. They might save about 10% on a $200 electric bill in a month, so $20 a month. If they sign up to be automatically paid, that will be another $20 a month. So between $200 and $480 a month potentially that these individuals could save.
But how about the people that are paying for that assistance program? How
And
much-
that's all covered in the budget that we put together, and our rates, because of the decreased cost of energy, everybody is still, it's not going to impact the new rates that were put into place. So customers are still going to be able to save. If you're strictly a natural gas customer, 12.7% a month, 3-service customer, almost 18% decrease. 2-service customer will save 22% a month, and a 2-service customer, 5.7%. So not going to impact the decreases that our customers
Just
are.
saying here, but if electric rates and gas rates go up, then that could.
So we've been consistent that what we're saying is because we're a small company, we can adjust. We can increase it, we can decrease it, we're not required to do this, so we can be flexible.
All right, okay.
And what we don't know is with the added benefit of getting that extra percentage, are we getting people paying throughout the year versus turning on, turning off and building that deficit over time? So this actually could curb some of the non-payers, turning them into payers. So that's where we're gonna have evaluations, bring it to the board, and we can discuss making changes based on the data. And right now, it starts November 1st, and Ruth will give you the numbers when she does her presentation.
Which are very encouraging. I mean, you don't want to crash your car.
And we'll stay in touch. We'll continue to do this November, December, and then we'll reach out to the date depending on what the uptake is in December, because I think it's going to be a good story that we want to repeat over and over and over.
So Chris, I read the article on the website about the rates. And it basically talked about our rates are going up, 4.5%, 4.75%, whatever, close to inflation. And then a couple paragraphs down talked about the cut in the cost of power. Right? And I thought we were going to try to do that differently. I thought we were going to lead with bills are going down. And
Well, so that's what we sat and talked with Claire Brissett about, and as a newspaper guy, I know that rarely does the subject get to write the newspaper article.
yeah,
I think all the information got out there. It's certainly helpful. And when you compare us to the investor-owned utilities, we're in great shape.
but this was on our website.
So there's two different documents.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, we're getting all the information out.
okay.
All right, thank you, Chris. All righty, next up will be the winter moratorium, which I believe is Ruth.
Absolutely.
All right.
We have a copy of my presentation. I left it out for everyone. So the first, the usual hardship and winter moratorium. It's pure regulations that we have to follow for the moratorium. November 1st to May 1st, qualifying if you're receiving state or city assistance, Social Security, serious illness in the home, and income less than the 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. The graph we have shows the moratorium numbers, the customers that have filed for the moratorium. Thank you. And you can see that it's gone up since the pandemic. Next, the matching payment program. That's an arrearage forgiveness program that we've had for a few years. We are assisting customers in reducing the debt that they have with us and hoping to change their habits so that they're making monthly payments to us. The qualifications are you must heat with us, gas or electric, qualify for energy assistance through TVCCA, and of course have a past due balance with us. Last year, we had 285 customers enrolled and 105 customers actually completed the program. We credited $250,000, so that's $250,000 that they paid that we may not have gotten if they weren't enrolled in this. This year, we enrolled 326 customers. The program doesn't finish until next week, so I don't have the numbers for this year, what we'll be crediting. But if we go by past history, it's 50% or less that finishes. So it's probably going to be about 150-ish customers. So, and again, we've been averaging about 250 to 300,000 a year on that, sometimes maybe 325. The graph shows the same as the hardship, the increase with the pandemic of customers that have been enrolled in our matching payment program. Operation Fuel, we're a fuel bank for Operation Fuel, have been for a few years. We've had 43 applications submitted for this past fiscal year and received $20,000 for those customers. We've got about 9,000 pending approval right now still, and they've closed down their funding season. So they won't reopen again until the beginning of December. TVCCA, we've had a representative in the office for the heating season for a few years now. We're extending that to a full-time presence in our office. TVCCA is going to be helping us with the low income rate qualifications. So we're going to have them year-round in our office. Right now, they're taking energy applications. They assist with the information. It's handy having them in the office. They're more accessible in our office than at the campus that they have out on Uncas on the Thames. They're up on the second or third floor. There's no elevator. It's very difficult. And customers don't always have all their documentation like their utility bill, so we can just print that out while they're in the office having their appointment. Costs us about $30,000 a year to have the TVCCA person in the office, and we get, usually about $1 million out of it. So some years past has been a little less than that, but usually it's about $1 million. So this past season, they helped a little over 2,000 customers, and we got 1.4 million out of that. They do have a new director. Deb Monahan has retired. She was there 50 years, I believe. So Josh Kelly will be starting, and we have a meeting set up with them next week.
Next week.
It's, yeah. Yeah, Halloween, that's right. Yep. So this graph shows the number of participants. Again, they've, kind of been level since the pandemic. But again, an increase. And then the funding, we had the lesser amount of funding in the last, past few years. The pandemic, there was an increase in federal money. So that's where that amount jumped up over $2 million that we received. And then this past fiscal year, it's down again to $1.5 million about. And we're anticipating it's probably going to be about the same thing for the coming heating season. But they haven't set the amounts yet, funding for that. So the community assistance rate that we're putting into place, the customers will need to be their income level 60% or less of the state median income. About 20% of our customer base right now files for hardship. So those are the ones that we're anticipating will be qualified for this. TVCCA, again, will be doing the work of qualifying them so that we're not collecting any income data on customers. Right now, we have 722 electric and gas customers that will be enrolling in this rate for November 1st that TVCCA has qualified. They've qualified for energy assistance, but also for our program. It's a 10% reduction on the electric, as Chris went over, up to 1,000 kilowatt hours. So up to, $22 a month they could be saving. And then the additional 10% if they enroll in auto pay and stay on auto pay.
So real quick.
Yeah.
So the 20% of customer base that'd be several thousand customers.
Yes,
4,000-ish?
yes.
4,000. So 722, we're expecting that to get significantly
Yes.
larger before the end of the year.
Yeah, they just started taking applications for energy assistance September 1st.
Okay.
So this is from September 1st till Friday, October 18th. They're not doing deliverable fuels until November 1st.
Okay.
So the oil, propane, kerosene,
Okay.
firewood customers, those will all be coming as well. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
The threshold for this. The first thing is we're using the state median income as the qualifying
mhm,
statistic.
Yep.
And my guess would be that, it's way above what the median income is in Norwich. Which is number 2 stressed community in Connecticut, according to the Department of Economic Development.
yes.
And, we've got Fairfield County and whatnot driving up those numbers. Is that something we took into consideration? Is there an alternative number to use? I mean, is there a median income in Norwich or London County and that sort of thing?
We mirrored what the investor owns have been mandated to do for that.
Okay,
So this is our first step. The investor owns are mandated they've got 2 tiers. One is the state median, the other is the federal poverty guidelines.
well, between the two, they're statewide, so the local numbers don't apply to them.
But I think we also looked at the process that that TDCCA uses for grant assistance. So that we wanted to mirror the 2 processes because ideally we'd be taking in the applications for both programs at the same time. And having the same threshold makes it a little easier administratively.
Okay, and then the other question is the threshold black and white? In other words, if you make $2 less, you qualify, and if you make $2 more, you're out? Or how does that work?
It depends. I don't know that TDCCA is that strict with those
Mhm.
guidelines, but we're not getting involved in collecting that data. We don't want to maintain any financial information on our customers,
Okay.
so we're relying on them to certify.
Mhm.
I can't imagine the TDCCA is that strict that if it's, $2 difference, that they're not gonna let them have assistance. But we're also, we're starting out with this 1 tier at 10%, and then we'll evaluate it as time goes by. The intent long-term is to try to get the 2nd tier in there for additional discounts for lower income people than the 60% state median. But at this point, and
Just like to see the data before we took too big of a jump because
Yeah.
it's hard to take it away once you give it out there.
Yeah.
right,
So when we go through the first 6 months to, do an evaluation, the first year, do an evaluation, then we can adjust accordingly.
and as Bill had pointed out, we don't want to impact the rest of the customer base without doing an analysis first to make sure that we're not raising rates significantly on others.
Communicate that information out there.
Yeah.
Very good.
This is a little tongue in cheek humor if you can tolerate it. But now that I'm working part-time, I'm just wondering if I'm over the poverty line. I don't know.
One of the advantages too is that will funnel some more, hopefully, we'll see, we'll take a look at the numbers, but funnel more people into applying for energy assistance. So not only do they qualify for this program, they're also going to get energy assistance, which is money from outside the community to help pay bills that aren't being paid currently. So we're going to watch those metrics carefully too. So if that number 1,400 suddenly becomes 1,700, I'm just saying conceptually, now we have 300 more individuals getting assistance from outside the community, which is a benefit to everybody without cost. So those are the kind of things we're going to analyze, take a look at as we roll through it.
What percent of our customers pay auto pay, you know?
Probably less than 10%. Yeah, so, and the numbers for the low income are considerably lower. So most of the,
You know, the regular customers get the 10% reduction. That's auto pay.
the low income, this is strictly for low income, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we will be doing some incentive programs to incent auto pay, and that'll be coming soon.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's more of the one-time variety versus a discount over time. But Simone's working on a marketing campaign to talk about, getting people familiar with these services and make it easier for them, right?
Mhm.
To do things automatically and
It's
online.
better for us.
Yes.
Well, bring more money in, but we're paying more fees. It's a balance, right? Because you gotta pay per credit card.
Mhm.
But in general, money in the door is better than guaranteed than all the collection processes we have to do. Because when you look at Bruce T, half of our work is collections,
Yeah.
probably more than half.
Yeah, mailing things, yeah, for the phone calls, incoming phone calls are collection related. So,
So auto pay gets rid of all collection issues.
yeah. And you might be eligible for that.
Oh, good.
Wait for the incentive program.
That's right.
Well, I did pretty well on heat exchanges already. Thanks to Mary Lou helping me out.
So next, Norwich Human Services. So we've been working closely with them for quite a few years. They have ARPA funds that they've been using to assist our customers with. So far, we've got 84 customers that have been assisted with $48,000 of the ARPA funds. We have also instituted a three-way matching payment program with Norwich Human Services. It's a little different than our standard matching payment program. So far, 5 customers have been assisted with it. $975 paid by Norwich Human Services, $975 paid by the customer, and $975 credited by us. So it helped the customers to bring their balances down. And we continue to work with Norwich Human Services on a regular basis to find ways to assist our customers. So it's been slow but good. Low Income Energy Advisory Board, we're a member of that board. I attend the meetings that they have. It's set up by state statute, had been quite a few years ago, to advise state departments, DSS, Office of Consumer Counsel, those types of state offices on how to assist customers. The focus lately has been on one-stop shopping so that when a customer is trying to apply for energy assistance or any other DSS benefits, social service benefits, that one application would funnel to multiple programs rather than they have to apply for each program separately. So the state has been good on working on that. Hopefully that'll help a lot of the customers as well. LIWEP, the federal government instituted this during the pandemic. It's also administered through TVCCA. The premise for it was to restore water services that had been terminated for non-payment and to help prevent service terminations for water. It was temporary, only meant to help during the pandemic. LIWEP is trying to get the legislature to make it a permanent program. While it's not as significant as the energy assistance that we receive, it still has been very helpful to a lot of customers. So out of, past year alone, 150 customers were assisted. Through the whole program, since it started during the pandemic, 410 of our customers have been assisted. So we've gotten $109,000 out of it. Hopefully they'll pass that and keep that going as well. So there's some water assistance for customers. And then this is the list of the partners that we work with in the community to try to assist our customers, make sure everything is going in the right direction. So, we're heavily involved with United Way, the Soldier, Sailor and Marine Fund. If somebody's a veteran, they're very helpful. They'll pay a month's bill on that. Area churches, Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, Jewish Federation. There's a lot of different organizations that will help customers, and we refer to all of these agencies on a regular basis to try to assist customers. Is there any other questions or? That's.
Oh, that's great, Ruth. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions of Ruth on the winter moratorium?
No, thank you.
And we'll have another update as we come out of the moratorium that will include how our car is doing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have enough time at that point to actually have some analysis.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda would be a sewer plant connection fee for schools. Chris, you will.
Oh, you get this one, right? No presentation. And I'm not looking for any action tonight. This is more of a discussion. And to kind of get an understanding of where the board is going with this, or has to get their opinion on this. So our sewer connection policy is, for schools, is that every student counts as 1/2 of an equivalent dwelling unit. So it seems a little high, but that's the way we wrote the statutes based back in the day. So that's $1,250 per student or EDU. We also, any buildings that are in an enterprise zone, we reduce by 50%. So that cuts it in half. And we look at the historical student count at a site that is subtracted for the final fee. So when we look at sewer connection fees, they always go for the historical highest use of that property. So if we had a office building and they converted it into a warehouse, it would have the sewer connection fee of having a fully occupied building, but it's not using it any longer, or vice versa. If there's a warehouse they made into an office building, that office building would have to pay the additional amount for that sewer connection fee. So there are two schools that are being revamped in the next year, and in all, 7 schools are going down to 4. So when we look at the 2 schools, the Greenville Elementary School is an enterprise zone. The Stanton School is not. So when we take a look at the current enrollment, which is going to be higher than what's traditionally been there because you're putting larger schools there, the sewer connection fee is $250,000 for Stanton Elementary and $165,000 for Greenville Elementary. So for that total, the cost is for the school system is $415,000. It's substantial. Now the city is getting reimbursed for the schools at 80%. So the total cost to this city is really $83,000. Okay, so that's what they would have to pay when they get their COs and connect in their buildings. Right? So I also sit on the building committee and I've had conversations with the mayor, and they're looking at ways of reducing costs of the schools. So there's a couple options for discussion, and then like I said, I'm not looking for an answer today. We'll talk about this more next month. Is the first one, this is a simple one. The city has the ability to designate an area of town or a building as an enterprise zone. And the city council could designate Stanton as an enterprise zone. It reduces the fee by $125,000, brings the total connection fee to $290,000. And if the city gets their reimbursement, they owe us $58,000. So that significantly cuts it down. We don't have to modify anything. And this is something that the council would take upon itself to delegate it as an enterprise zone. And we would get that sewer connection fee at Stanton cut in half.
Well, there's no 10%.
What's that?
There's no 10%.
There's no 10% at all. So sewer is 100% cost based
Yeah.
with no extra payment to the city.
Well, the disadvantage of, just willy-nilly to create an enterprise zone for that property only.
Yeah. So once again, that opens up for interpretations that, I want to put a new big business in Norwich Town. That's not an enterprise zone or in a business park. And let's call it, and so all the fees and, get cut in half. And there's tax abatements and things that can go with it. So once again, when you start doing these things and make the one-offs, it may become problematic in the future.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay? So another option is creating a resolution to the sewer connection fee that says with NPU board approval, companies moving from one location to another and maintaining ownership of both properties can reallocate the historical sewer connection capacity to either property. So when you look at it, there's no net increase in students. We're moving things from one school to another. And so the sewer plant is not seeing any extra load based on these new schools that are being built. We're not bringing more students, or actually the student population, like most towns, is declining. But the overall population will be less than, if you looked at all schools like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they were higher level than they are now.
But Greenville's being built in front up.
Yes, and Stanton will be essentially too, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're making small schools into big, modern, new schools. They're tearing down the old, building new, okay? So when you look at the overall population of all the schools in Norwich, that's coming down. These two schools are gonna get larger for their historical, than their historical numbers. Kind of like what Kelly did. Kelly consolidated and became one bigger, but they were, probably has less students in the combined that were in there before it was built. So
Who reimburses the city? The 80%, where's that come from?
that comes from, the Board of Ed, state.
Okay, state.
Yeah, I know they got some legislation through Senator Austin and, State Board of Education.
And this figure on the far right, that is the full cost for the building. That's not, is that a per year thing or just?
No, that's a one-time connection
For the building.
for the building. So when we look at this, as Bob said, there's no 10% to the city, there's no benefit, on any of that. And also, we don't get extra, anything for it. But if you're a Norwich sewer ratepayer, you get more value if the city pays this, because it's gonna lower our sewer plant costs. These monies go right towards sewer capital, capital infrastructure. So, more discussion is gonna be happening with the city manager and, the mayor. And just wanna kind of hear the thoughts of the board.
Tonight or next week or
Next month.
Next month. Okay.
Well, if you have tonight, we'd love to hear them tonight, because we can better prepare for next month.
Okay.
Well, I have a question.
I'll
Yeah,
think
I'll think about it.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
We have this policy now where, it didn't always be the case, but we have this policy now where we separate each unit and have independent financial considerations for each one. And I guess that's good, although I think it's a little extreme because General Motors doesn't do that. I mean, that Buick has its own financial statement, but at the end of the year, they all go to General Motors, but that's neither here nor there. I guess my question is, are the schools going to be putting in HVAC units that are going to benefit us? And if they're not, could we make lowering their sewer costs an inducement?
So they're all gas customers now.
Okay,
So they're either gas or electric heating. So the only thing that potentially will, I'm gonna say slightly increase load is when you come up to the new building code standards. Generally, we learned this with Kelly, that, oh, wait a minute, everything's top efficiency, but the air changes per hour makes a better learning environment, more comfortable, but maybe a little bit more energy intensive. You're gonna go through the same thing in that. So there may be marginal increases, but they're all customers already versus historically, they used to be oil or gas and they would convert back and forth. All that equipment went away 10, 15 years ago. So they're utility customers at this point.
They have not signed the billings yet, and we will be looking to make sure they're maximizing their efficiency. But on a project like this, we are going to have caps on what we can contribute towards an efficient system. Otherwise, we'd run out of money and we wouldn't have enough for the majority of our customers.
I got a little bit behind in the thought process here. So what's going on is putting in sewer for Stanton and Greenville, they didn't have it before.
Brand new schools, they had historically on site, they had sewer, Mike. They're bringing in more students. Our policy says they have to pay for that differential. They, just saying, they had 100 students before and they're consolidating, making the schools bigger, now they have 200 students. I'm just
So
throwing
it's
numbers.
still the same sewer connection and everything?
They may have to increase it, we don't know, that has to be designed, so. And they will definitely have to extend it to a different location on the site.
So we would be charging the city, 415,000,
Yes,
and then who reimburses the city 80%?
state of Connecticut,
Oh, it didn't
it's
say
the
that.
Board of Ed and through additional legislation.
So the net cost is 83,000, so basically, this is just like bringing in 80% of 450, well, it's bringing in 415,000 to us.
We get the full amount, and that would go towards sewer capital projects, that's what the fund is designed to create money for. It was originally put in place to support the sewer plant, and we haven't had enough to make it as substantial as we would want.
What happens, so the other schools got closed down, the 3 schools? just got-
So they have that historical capacity, if they shut another school down, that whatever they put in, they sell that property or make another city use out of it, that historical capacity stays with that. So there's value to keeping it. You know, if we just said, you can willy-nilly move it, if you're like, I'm a pizza restaurant, Norwich Pizza right here, I want to move over to Norwich Town. I want to take my sewer connection 3 feet with me to put it on a brand new piece of property. That would leave this one without anything. And we said, no, we want to keep it at the premise. That was the decision the board made to simplify our rules. So these 2 options that were mentioned, both open up a door, and if we do things with city council approval or NPU board approval, that means that all new customers potentially could be coming, looking for waivers to the board for these types of uses, right?
Yeah, so especially coming now, where we've got the huge project that we're doing, which is costing upwards of $200 million, and this is gonna save $25,000, right? Overall. So I understand the mayor's concern that he wants to save money in schools and all that. But $25,000 to then put in place policy that may affect us negatively going forward, maybe? Yeah.
Now, if option 1 is decided by the mayor and the council, there's nothing we can do about it. That's how we do it. And, you know,
I get that,
but option 2 is something that, you know, it's a justification, but it will open up some floodgates potentially.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I talked to the mayor recently, it's 3 o'clock on this, he does plan on being at our next meeting and getting engaged in the conversation.
Okay. Well, I guess all right, the board has to want the board to make a decision next month, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so option 2, we have to understand exactly how much money we're talking about here. How many customers we think would qualify for that sort of thing? How much money are we losing in the process?
So it's kind of an odd scenario, because if I am in a business in one part of town and I'm moving to another part of town, I don't usually maintain ownership of both properties.
Right.
I'm selling this building to somebody, and a new pizza restaurant may jump in there, and I'm going over here, right? But if I'm gonna say, hey, I wanna expand, and I wanna move it over here because this is gonna be a bigger restaurant, it's still a balance. I don't think it can happen that often.
Chris, are you saying that if we were to do option 2, that would have to apply to your pizza restaurant or to?
Well, that's where it'd be, that's why with board approval, because I'm telling you, I'm gonna keep my pizza restaurant here, or I'm gonna keep this building, I'm buying a new building, and then I want to move all the load over there, I'll keep this as a warehouse. and then they sell it immediately. That becomes something the board's gotta weigh in on. What's the odds of something like that happening, right?
But I mean, the point is, the city owns us. I mean, it's not clear to me that if we have a policy that applies to the city, it has to also apply to every private business in town.
I can tell you also a slippery slope, if we say, oh, the city gets preferential treatment, does that mean rates? Does that mean, we're just in the process of bringing things together. Once again, it's a slippery slope. It opens the door for other things. Do we make the schools not pay their utility bills? Do we reduce their bills? Once we open it up to city only, that's something of consideration. We can write it very specifically, so it's limited, but it does open the door. But in the next month, if there are other ideas, love to hear them. We'll have more information next month, and we can have a good dialogue again next month. But if anybody has any good ideas, like I said, love to hear them. This is not normal utility business. I don't normally do.
So under option, let's say that option 1 is not exercised by the city. Under option 2, both of these new, I'll call them new upgraded schools would fall in that category because they'd be maintaining the old schools as an administrative building or something like that. Okay.
Or park, or
So,
yeah.
what would the total savings to the city be if option 2 was put in place just for those 2 schools?
Oh, that would be $83,000.
Okay, got it. For the 415, got it. All right. So they save a lot more in option 2. They save 83 versus 25.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to understand the difference though, because as I understand Stanton, it may be rebuilt and be expanded and so forth and so on, but it's essentially the same school in the same location. Greenville doesn't exist anymore. Greenville was leveled a few years ago.
Yeah. So both schools had, 330 to 390. Now they're going to have almost 600.
Yeah.
So if you look at historical Greenville, the most they ever had was 333 students that we know of.
Yeah.
And now they're going to essentially double that, the number of students.
But I mean, like for Stanton, what do we have to do for sewers? I mean, we already have sewers there. Do we need bigger sewer lines to accommodate more students?
So here's what's not included in the cost. The city or the building committee is going to pay to install the new utilities all the way back to the main. Right. So we don't pay for that. We don't pay for water and sewer extensions for any customers.
Yeah.
So those are gonna be new. Not existing.
Right. They may be able to use a piece of it, but
It goes to the standalone now, you
you get back to you on that one, Bill.
Yeah, no,
Combination of
yeah.
6 of the lines are super old, a lot of them clay lines and stuff.
Yeah, so something like clay, yeah.
So we're gonna get old lines upgraded, essentially, replaced by new lines.
Of which they own those lines. We only own at the main. They own from the main to the curb, main to the building. And that's all our sewer customers are like that.
So what is the school budget, about $100 million?
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So $83,000 versus $100 million. That's several significant figures, half a dozen, right? I don't know. Just seems like a lot of upheaval for 83 grand. Yeah, okay. And that's roughly half a teacher maybe, salary wise?
But I don't know who's gonna do this, but Peter has a big thing about looking for ways to economize in the school building program. I mean, I think that this is just one small piece of it.
Yeah.
I get that, I get that, I just.
Yeah. So they have a budget for these schools, just like we have a budget for our sewer plant. Now that we have Nickerson on board, they're going to be finding ways of potentially saving money, and we can have change orders to reflect those. And we may find some better ideas in the next 5 years on some things, and we can propose change orders to lower costs. We're still looking at ways to lower the costs when we build this. There's going to be smarter, better ways when they start, we start rolling up our sleeves in each system that we're installing. And they're gonna do the same thing in the school system. And as you said, this is one of Peter's things where he can, try to find some savings.
All righty, thank you, Chris. Is there any other questions on the school connection fee? Comments?
And welcome questions before the next meeting on this, or suggestions.
All right, our next item will be a sewer plant update. Chris will be speaking on this.
Start with Larry, and then we'll work our way to Mike Andrea.
Probably pretty quick. So last Monday, the 16th, we had a pre-construction meeting. Contractor was great, state officials, and CDM Smith, a design engineer. It's a pretty lengthy meeting, it's a complicated process, there'll be a lot of moving parts to this one. They are on site now working, they're putting leveling pads for construction trailers, doing a series of borings that we were not able information on when all fairs had all those boats in the boat storage area. Everything's been cleaned out up there, so it's free access to the site. They are somewhat held up by their stormwater permits. It's either 1 or 5 acres. You have to apply to the state for approval for a stormwater erosion control plan. So it has to be in phase. The contractor has to show the state that they were beating up this area. The other catch the stormwater and clean it before it goes to the river. So that's getting approved. It's about a 60-day approval time. They're hoping to be out there by Christmas, but really looking at the start of the new year that they'll be out there in fall, and then we'll get real busy. But they're submitting shop drawings, material specs and all that stuff. But it's underway. It's going to be an interesting 4 years for sure. So we're at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing that came in today is it looks like we're gonna have our groundbreaking ceremony on November 15th at 11 a.m. We'll send a formal invite to all board members. We will have Commissioner Katie Dykes as well as other officials from the state. So it is going to be a big
What
deal.
time is that?
11 a.m. And more information will get sent out. But this is an email from Carlos, I don't know, about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah.
Quick question. Somewhere, I believe in all of this project, there's been talk about resurfacing the former park or dump or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
The northern 2/3, I guess.
Yes.
Is that included in this one thing?
Absolutely.
And what do you see as the potential time schedule, and what's the objective, so forth and so on?
We do not have Nickerson's full how we're going to build it yet schedule, because that's kind of means,
Okay.
because we don't dictate, they have 10 days, we should actually have it. It all depends, they have to excavate for the new clarifiers and new buildings and all that stuff, and we get that may be capped and finished long before the plan is actually up and running, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Once the dirt hauling is moving, they can just cap that area and just be done.
Yeah.
So it could happen year 2 or 3, it all depends what they do submit to us, but it will not be the last thing done. Because once they dig all the holes, they can put the dirt and we'll cap it over.
And then we work with CMEC and look at the value of solar at that time and whether it makes sense. And hopefully we'll have a good project. That's the plan, is to make it solar ready. And if it's not something we do when it's ready, we can have the ability to do that in the future as well.
Can we do the solar development and do the PPA with cement?
No.
Tesla can do that.
Well, CMEC is our sole energy provider.
Yes.
So we have to have the solar done through CMEC on something that large, and with the PPA. So essentially we could build it and have them do the PPA. It probably makes sense for them to build it.
Yeah, we could be Tesla if we wanted to be on that site. And, essentially rent the land from the city or maybe it's our land.
It's our land.
And put in the units and maintain them and sell the power to CMEC and potentially make a profit.
Yeah. We could also have CMEC install it, invite the others to join. If they choose not to join, we're the sole recipient of all of the value.
Yeah.
And that spreads risk, so there's value there too.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, now I'd like to talk to Mike to address some of our short-term financing issues. And Mike's coming with solutions.
I hope. No.
we do. So Mike Andriana, I'm a partner at Pullman and Conley. We're NPU's kind of financing council. So what you have in front of you regarding the resolution and the promissory note is kind of a short-term solution to an issue that we've been discussing for a while. Maybe it's a little less of an issue today than it was when we first began discussing it, because to get the project started, it's taking a little longer than we originally anticipated. But just to give you background, obviously the way this project's going to be primarily financed is through state grant and loans, 2% loans, and the grants is effectively free money. So we're in the process. I know that the application is up there. Since COVID, the state's been a little slower getting things done and moving on things. So we're hoping to get the application turned around, get the financing agreement out, and actually enter into the agreement, which provides us access to the grant and loan money. The initial concern was, well, what if that took too long with the state and the project gets rolling and you start getting invoices? How are we going to pay for that? So the idea of what's in front of you is kind of this interdepartmental loan between the electric division and the sewer division. It kind of works like a non-revolving line of credit. And the idea would be that this kind of promissory note, the loan, would be accessed in that period of time between once work is commenced on the project and we still don't have the state kind of financing in place. So we got to find another source to pay the bills. So the idea would be that there would be just kind of this short-term loan between the electric division and the sewer division. And when bills came in, if the sewer division didn't have ample funds within its monies, it could tap into the electric division to a max of $15.5 million, basically borrow money from the electric division to use to pay off its vendors who are doing the work. The idea would be then, when we finally get the state loan solved, the principal that's borrowed from the electric division, we'd be able to use state money for to repay the electric division. Unfortunately, the way the state rules work, we can't use state money to repay the interest that the sewer division would owe to the electric division. But it's a good short-term solution to cover those instances where money's needed, sewer division doesn't have the money, state program's not in place, and we can keep the project moving forward. The way this has been set up is basically the interest rate that the sewer division is going to agree to pay the electric division is the interest that the electric division is earning on its money right now. So the electric division basically comes out whole. It loans the money, but it's getting repaid what it would have had if it didn't loan the money. And then, the sewer division would have to find the funds to make that interest payments. The expectation is that this should be pretty short term. My best guess today, probably optimistic, I would think and hope that the state program would be in place by the end of the year. Could spill over into a month or two, maybe into 2024. So we're talking maybe 3 or 4 month period of time where the project might be having bills, program's not in place, so we could tap into this. So that's what's in front of you. The way it's set up is, one, that it's non-revolving, and that's because the state laws would not allow kind of a revolving line of credit where if the sewer division paid back principal, it gets access to those funds again. Under Connecticut law, it's very difficult for public entities to do kind of revolving lines of credit. So that's why we set it up as a non-revolving line. The other thing we did, we made it with a very kind of short-term final maturity of next June. One, because we don't think it's going to really be needed beyond that. because we should have the state program in place. The other thing too, from a kind of a financial record keeping, it cleans up the books by the end of each fiscal year. So you don't have this owe to, owe from, or due from, and showing loans on the financials. Worst case, and I've talked to Chris and Steve and everyone here at NPU, if for some reason, I can't foresee it now, that we needed to kind of continue this kind of line of credit beyond June 30th, the way we would do that would be to basically have this loan terminate June 30th, probably in June. I'd be back here and tell you why we need to do another loan for fiscal year 24-25. So that's kind of the mechanics behind it. And the resolution, it's basically, it caps the amount at 15.5 million, sets the maturity date of June 30th, sets the interest rate at basically, it's a variable rate, and it's what the electric division is earning on its monies that's sitting in an M&T account now, and it basically gives Chris the authority to sign the note. So that's what's in front of you. Happy to answer any questions.
Did you say that we can't use state funds to repay the loan or something to that?
We can't use state funds to repay any interest that's due on this. The principal amounts, we definitely can, and that's what we will do. So if you know, we're into, you know, early on and we get a bill for 5 million and that bill has to be paid. You can borrow there. Eventually, once the state program's in place, the 5 million will come from the state and repay the electric division. It's just the interest component that would have to come from the sewer division.
We have plenty of money in the cash reserves to pay for the interest piece.
Okay.
But we don't have enough to cover this much money.
Yeah.
Now, as the rates go into place in the next years, our savings are gonna go up until we get the whole plant built out.
You had any discussion with Cobbles regarding getting the finances in place by the end of the year, or?
They understand the urgency, and, you know, they have, who's their new guy? New guy's not, it used to be Hank. Vinny, yeah. So we have.
It's just known as Vinny.
Yeah, just
I can help you with that. But I can't help you with it.
Yeah. Wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the state has been extremely cooperative, but in Mike's experience, as he said, since COVID, things have slowed down.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
They picked up on our specific project, and with the commissioner coming, you can see the urgency and how important they think this project is.
This is a good plan.
Any other questions?
I'm not opposed to it. But so the grant money that comes in and the other loans that we're using for this, that are being paid for by revenue, correct?
Yes.
Correct. So basically it's just a timing thing, that those will come in after the bills come in, and we don't want to hold the contractors up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Delaying contractor means change orders and costs.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add is obviously, once we get the state program in place, we're gonna wanna use their loan program because it's at 2% versus, I think right now, I've talked, the M&T accounts at over 4% now. So it's obviously a big savings to the sewer division as soon as we can get that state loan program in place.
All right, are there any questions concerning the interdepartmental loan resolution? All right, so Chris, you want to vote on this time?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right. All right, we've heard the presentation. I will entertain a motion. You have a resolution in your board package. I'll entertain a motion to move forward on that resolution.
Can I ask one quick question before we do this? We have continually tried to maintain a balance in the electric division, in all divisions, but in the electric division. And we maintain that one of the reasons we do that is because the rating agencies want us to have a balance of a certain amount. Is this going to reduce that available cash, and is that going to somehow impact our rating?
By the time we go in for a rate, because we haven't got to that point yet, that's probably, I'd say, what, a year and a half away. By the time we get to that point, we're gonna be golden. So, and revenues would have gone up with it, so it will not impact that at all.
That is another reason why we're looking at that June 30 timeframe, so that our audited financials will not reflect any of those due from situations.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And does it also matter that we wouldn't have the money in the bank, but we would have an outstanding loan that had to be paid back to us, so that was essentially a financial resource the rating agencies could look at?
The rating agencies definitely prefer cash in the account than having a receipt.
Yeah.
But the one thing from a rating agency's perspective is this is a guaranteed payment, not like maybe a future revenue. This is, we have a loan in place that guarantees the payment.
But if everything works out as planned, we shouldn't be in that position when it comes time to be rated.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you, Robert. Oh, thank you, William. Thank you, Michael. All right, I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion on the interdepartmental loan resolution?
Second.
I think you're third, Sean.
All right, I got 2 seconds. Here we go. All right. All right, there's no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Very well.
And thank you very much, because once again, this is just keeping the plant moving forward and looking forward to the results of that.
Perfect. Okay, well, that brings us to agenda item 7, which is executive session. Chris, would you like to stay behind on this?
All right, we're gonna start whittling it down, but we'll start with Jeff, Steve, Chris, and Mary Lou for the first one.
Anyone online, Chris?
No one online other than a shot.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And executive session tonight is to discuss confidential trade secret and commercially valuable confidential proprietary information.
Let's get everybody out.
Not subject to inspection or public disclosure pursuant to section 12105 and 7232A of Connecticut General Statutes. And this information is also commercially valuable, confidential, proprietary, not subject to public disclosure pursuant to Public Act 98-212, and to discuss personnel matters of an employee or public official pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1206A.
I don't know if we need to have that on.
Of the Connecticut General Statutes.
Is John running the meeting or is it not?
No,
No.
you can